Good evening and welcome to the Town of Raymond Budget Finance Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 28th. I'm calling the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 16th meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. Next on the agenda is discussion with department heads on the new process for the development of the 5-year CIP plan. We're missing a few.
Yeah, there's a few that couldn't make it. Melanie might be remote in, but she had an appointment, and Brenda is still recovering from surgery. So
Okay.
I will be here. We have Jay from Codes and Nathan from Public Works, and I think Richard from Library.
Okay.
Yep.
And I'm looking for the public safety,
And Bruce, yeah.
because I thought that they were going to be here tonight.
I did too. Check my emails.
Dennis, was that public safety that pulled into the parking lot?
I don't think so. I saw the chief. Yeah, I saw the chief in District 2. He was on his phone. No, it's Peter.
No, he's probably on his way.
Okay, he's coming up to the meeting? Okay. Okay. All right, thanks. He's coming, but he said he had to run home first.
Oh. Well,
Maybe we could have discussion of 4.
okay.
Item 4.
Oh, item 4? All right. Item 4 is discussion on a Budget Finance Committee tour of the fire and rescue building. And I did speak with Deputy Chief Lee O'Connor this afternoon and asked him for a couple of possible dates of when we could tour the fire department building. And so he reminded me that there are 2 locations. And what I asked him for, the possibility of our June meeting date, which is June 16th, or August 20th, instead of having meetings those nights, that we could go to the, have the tour on those days instead.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have a lot of business coming up for July and August.
Yep.
So, so the idea is, do we want to do both buildings on the same day?
I think you can, or.
I think we could too.
Mhm.
That seems easy enough to do.
Yep.
Do you have a preference on July 16th or August 20th?
I think it would be, for me, August 20th would work better.
Okay. I don't have a preference. Either one of them works for me.
I don't think I have a preference either.
I don't either.
Okay, so why don't we go with August 20th?
Yep.
Okay, you are very welcome. And we'll plan to do both buildings. Okay. All right, well, we'll go forward with the department heads that we have here. Thank you for coming. So at our last meeting, we brought up a new process, a new tool that we're going to use for the CIP process going forward. What has been asked for this year is already locked down. It will be voted on June 10th, so that's behind us now. But going forward for the next budget year, 26-27, we have, it was in your e-packet, there's a tool, CIP, implementation tool, CIP, and this is what we'd like to use going forward. And I've been working with Joe, and we came up with a form. It's a fillable form that you would have to fill out, and it goes with all of the there's an example on the back of the handout, and it gives a description of what the request is. It's a sample, and so the form matches the information in the request. So we would have a written request from all the department heads of what you'd like to have in your CIP plan for the next budget year, the fiscal year. And then when the form is submitted, you would include your backup data that goes with it, such as written quotes from suppliers, and anticipation if there was going to be a grant, or if there was money that has already been allocated for the project, or if more money is needed from the town to go with the carry forward from the previous years, on how the funding is going to work, anticipated ideas of how the funding sources would work, and the years that that funding would be applied, or if a bond is needed, or whatever the revenue source is going to be, it would be identified on the request form. And then Joe had the great idea of having it be a fillable form, so when you go in to fill out the form, there are required fields, and you can't go forward until all the fields are filled out, and then that data would load an Excel spreadsheet, and then the report would come out as the written request. And then we have a more formalized way and a better way to track the CIP requests for each budget year.
Can I just walk through process?
Yes, absolutely.
So just, I want to make sure we're clear. So that fillable form will be filled out by the department head or whoever's in charge of that CIP. It'll be submitted to the town manager to kind of populate in a folder and gather all the necessary documents into a folder, so we'll have it. And then once that's kind of finalized, and be sent to the chair to then go through and put into that spreadsheet. Is that kind of how you feeling, or?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
I know where you're going with that, because what I have done, and I've been working on this, is I took all the sheets from all the department heads from this past budget cycle, and I put everything into one Excel workbook. So I have all of the sheets, and then I have the carry forward Excel document that we have. And then I have another sheet where I went line by line in each department and copied all of that information into one sheet. It's quite a bit of information, so that we could tally it at the bottom, and we can see what our tally is line by line and going out for the next 5 years. The one piece that I still haven't done is put in, what I'd like to see is like a box score on the department head sheets that you gave us back in the budget season. At the bottom, there was a box score that had like the next 5 years out of what the anticipated expenses were going to be and the anticipated carry forward. So you had it all in a box, and we could anticipate how much funding was going to be needed to fill the gap for the expenses. And I would like to have that in a summary page for each department. And I think that would give us a snapshot, I call it a box score, of what we're looking at. So Joe came up with this idea. He's handed this sheet out, and this is basically what I've done, but this was a sample, so that I'm a visual person, I have to see it to understand it, but this sheet represents what we came up with. So it can be filtered by department and have the expenses laid out for us. So the idea was to invite the department heads here tonight to explain what we're thinking about and to get some feedback from you on how you think this process is going to work, if you have any questions or suggestions. And we would ask that so that we don't have a really compressed budget season, that we would separate out the CIP in advance of that, so we can spend some time looking at the CIP, and then when we get to February, we can really focus on the budget. And we would ask that the request forms be submitted by September 1st. So that would give us September to January, or September to the end of the year, to work on the CIP process, and then know where we are when we start the budget season, instead of trying to work both of them at the same time. Sometimes it gets to be very overwhelming.
That's good. Yeah, because one thing I just noticed is, I think when we are centralizing all the information, I think that'll help produce a clean document to kind of observe and look at. So when we go into that budget process, like you said, we have kind of a one sheet of the breakouts and where things lie, as far as if that's going to be the final implementation of that equipment or project, or down the line the next 5 years. So hoping that will help. Kind of, if we do the prep work before, it will make the budget process a little bit easier.
Yeah.
We hit that season.
Then when I get that, those summary sheets finished, and I give it a sanity check, then I'll send it over to you so you can look at it
Yep.
and give it another look and make sure that we've got everything on there. The more eyes, the better. The way I feel about it. Seems like something gets missed somewhere in all that data.
Yes, there's a lot of data being around there. So
Any comments or questions?
I guess I might have one question.
Okay, Sure.
Elaborate. So this is supposed to be like for 4 to 6 years in the future. So would this include any potential upgrades to the school if that ever happens? Or is that a not, that we're not going to do this year?
that the visioning committee is meeting right now on that. And so there will be another committee that will be the implementation
Yep.
committee. And so that's
Okay.
when those numbers will be finalized. So I expect that would be in a year, maybe?
Probably
We're about a year out.
wrapping up in June for vision, and I would say probably by hopefully end of July, August, we'll have the build and implementation committee in. So probably next year,
Yeah,
start getting some numbers.
right.
All right, thank you.
I know the visioning committee is working very hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas. It's great.
So would the school itself end up with its own CIP?
I'm gonna guess we'll have to create a different CIP account just for that that kind of build-in plan type of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna guess it's gonna be broken out of the existing CIP accounts we already have. So probably be best to separate that.
No question.
Yeah, actually would fall into facilities, wouldn't it?
Facilities, yep.
I mean,
If
that
right.
in my mind makes sense, because that's what it's gonna become.
yeah, I guess it depends on
Can be a separate line.
right. It currently with Nathan's budget of facilities, yeah, that could be something that can be looked at too with that implementation. How we fund that will kind of dictate where we go with the accountant piece. So
I would think on the new school, they're gonna probably bond that, so that would be paid out of the bond. Your operating costs, obviously, we'd have to create an operating cost for the building. The CIP facilities account would be for upgrades to the rest of the buildings that we have and probably part of that building, but I would think that overall cost of doing that would be bonded, and that would be under a different line.
I would think one of the things you might look at once that comes to fruition is to have a separate facilities person.
Yep.
That literally was in charge of
Right.
all of the facilities and take it away from Nathan, because Nathan's got enough to do to do the road.
That is absolutely correct. If we, I envision if we do, and when and if we do the building, that I will put another staff member on or another whole department for facilities. That this school is way outside of,
Yeah, I would think it would be a separate,
Yeah. you'd have to,
separate.
Yeah, you'd want at least
Yeah.
one or two people, just even with the times of everything. Like you're going from, could be 7, 6 in the morning to, 10 o'clock at night, so.
you're
probably want
going to
some
have to have a cleaning staff.
Yeah.
And I think once we get into that building, that'll create enough work to justify a facilities department with staff for cleaning and lawn maintenance and so on and so forth. I think
And
they've
to,
got
and to work
something.
with everybody else who has facilities, the fire department and, you guys and everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have someone who's gonna supervise the overall
Correct.
upkeep of the buildings in coordination with the department heads.
Yeah, and that'd be paid out of the general fund for sure.
Yeah, it'd be operations
Yeah.
costs on that.
So, well, that's a good idea.
Okay. Okay. Chief Tupper, we already discussed number 4 at the beginning. We jumped over on the agenda. Oh, okay.
Chose a date already for you.
We have a date for you. I spoke with Deputy Chief O'Connor this afternoon, and we talked about a couple of dates where the Budget Finance Committee could come and have a tour of the fire and rescue building, which you had offered to us back in the budget season. I think it's a great idea, and there's agreement here. We'd all like to come. So August 20th will be the date, and we'd like to tour both buildings on that day if we could. Now, is everyone available? Like, when would you prefer for us to come, in the afternoon, morning, afternoon, evening?
Actually, yeah, during the day wouldn't be a bad thing if you all can make it then, and if not, an early evening is fine. We can make something work. What is the day of August 20th on the
It's a
calendar?
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. It'll be a training evening, but that's okay.
Oh,
Might be even better.
Oh.
So,
okay. Whatever works and is convenient for you.
nope, not a problem. I would do that. That would be good.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you.
All right, no problem. So we'll do, would we say 6:30?
In the evening?
Yep,
What?
or a little earlier if that's,
All right, can we do 6? Can everybody make 6?
I'm
Yeah.
taking the day off
Or-
of work, so whatever.
okay, yeah, 6 looks good.
Okay,
Yeah, perfect.
thank you. All right. So are we all set with the number 3, the CIP piece of it with the department heads? Are there any other questions or comments for that?
I just have one question.
Okay, sure.
So, code enforcement, we don't really have a lot of CIP, pretty much would be a vehicle. And I see, you have $30,000. Is that, the strategy is just kind of put in that lump sum for 1 year, or would it be preferable to kind of divide that up by 3 years? Or is that something that you, the Budget Finance Committee, will kind of look at?
It would still be,
year.
that'd be out of Nathan's vehicle fleet, so
Okay.
something under Public Works.
Yep.
And then, yeah, it'd just be either added to that fiscal year or wherever in the.
Right, I just was, at the, on that sheet, it kind of shows the years going out, so we
Yeah.
can just say, we expect in 2 years to need a vehicle.
Correct.
You put in a number there and make the request that way.
Correct. That's how I see it, yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Forecast and it, yeah.
Sure.
And yeah, something like that, yeah, we won't even break out through 7 years of payments, so. So yeah, that's a good plan.
All right. Anyone else on Zoom have any more questions about the process? Okay. Do you agree that September 1st is a doable date that we could get that done by?
For those, yes, for the next fiscal year, kind of those
Yes.
projects, yeah. I think that's doable. I think we have a lot of the legwork already in some of these documents. I think it's just pulling it out and
Yes.
kind of organizing it. So I plan on having a separate CIP folder. So as we collect all these documents, it's kind of all in one location, separate from the total budget.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be easier to kind of grab a hold of that there, instead of mixing in with kind of like general operational, and it's kind of in every department. So we could start pulling those out and put them in that folder.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, so next we have public comment. Okay. Pete?
Cliff, can you just send those down? I certainly can.
Thank you.
So Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. I did look at the e-packet and the agenda. So I did look at it, and it was very helpful as far as the insert goes. I just bring your attention to the purposes of capital improvement planning. I think that was on the first page of the handout, and it's got like 7 or 8 bullet points. I'd emphasize 2, which is the second to last one: ensure that patterns of growth and development are consistent with the comprehensive plan, because you know that's near and dear to my heart. And then the third bullet: identify the most economical means of financing capital improvements. It's a challenge for this committee. It's a challenge for the town as a whole in looking at trying to project 5-10 years down the road. Believe me, I've been involved in that for the last 2.5 years. But what I'd say is that going on that comprehensive plan, the important thing to note as far as one of the keys to that was land use, and it was looking at growth areas, which are required by the state to be declared in a comprehensive plan. If you don't have one, the state will actually assign you a growth plan. And so what I've given you as far as a handout is, first of all, the map showing the different growth areas. The red is the 302 growth area, and the orange is the village growth area. And that's backed up by the 4 following pages, which basically describe the Route 302 growth area, the village growth area, and one that's a little newer, and that's actually talking about the East Raymond growth area, which is where we're right now, and which I believe was part of your discussion just with the Jordan Small School. And certainly, I understand people wanting to be anxious about finding out, how do we, get our dibs on this and whatever. What I can tell you is that it's hard for this committee right now because, as you know, really what it's going to come down to as far as what goes in that building is going to be the appetite of the taxpayer. And when we're talking about bonds or we're talking about whatever, understand that this may be very incremental and it may start out being rather small. Envisioning everything happening there at one time, well, you maybe have a little bit more confidence in the taxpayers of this town than I do as far as having that happen. But my guess is it's going to be more phased in. So as far as positioning ourselves with the state is concerned, obviously the state is very interested in growth areas. The last 20 years in this town, what I've heard is that comprehensive plans have been directed at getting development in the town to the growth areas. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. What we experience here is what they experience in most towns our size, which is large lot, single-family homes, not concentrated in a village area. But that's where we want to go, according to the comprehensive plan. what it does is it puts the development more in a concentrated village-type area where there are more resources, and it leaves the majority of the town rural, which is my sense of where the people that got involved with the comprehensive plan were going. So I'd ask you, these come right out of the handout is right out of the comprehensive plan, which I'm happy to see has been in its final form. So that's good, and I believe that there's going to be a directive coming up next Monday as far as where we're going with that. But I guess my main reason tonight is to basically emphasize that as far as identifying, reasonable resources in order to fund these things. I had one discussion before the select board several months back, and I think I may have mentioned it to this group as well. Tax incremental financing, the TIF areas. I mentioned the select board. I didn't get much of a rise in mentioning that. We already have a TIF, and the TIF is basically the pipeline going along 121. And what the TIF really does is, in a very simple explanation, is it's money in that designated area. Any increase or improvements in that tax valuation gets put into a separate fund that is accessible for specified projects that the state agrees with the town. So, as an example, were we to make East Raymond the new TIF area, and we're talking about how we're going to finance these improvements to Jordan Small School, an alternative would be to use our own tax dollars to do it. And the other incentive as far as tax incremental financing is concerned is my basic understanding, and all I had was Economics 101, but I'll tell you, my basic understanding of how the TIF works is that all the money that accrues in that account is invisible to the county and the state. And by that I mean that my understanding of a reval, right? When reval happens in a town, the dollars that you pay to the county go up. And the amount of money you get from the state goes down. So that's the problem. And think of it this way: for every tax dollar we spend, that we create, we're giving a portion of it to the county, and we're giving a portion of it to the state. I mean, by giving it to the state, I mean when we get for revenue sharing. When our reval goes up, our revenue sharing is going to go down, and our county taxes go up. However, the dollars in the TIF account are invisible to the county and the state. So they're set aside for a specific purpose. That would be a CIP. So that'd be looking down the road and saying, and we have a recent example of that, right? Didn't we just recently fund the infrastructure, the internet process? We went and basically got that funded through the TIF fund. So it's not that we haven't done this before. When I brought this up, it seemed like at the select board meeting, the only person whose ears picked up was Kurt LaBelle. Because what he said was, oh, yeah. He said, yeah, but if you want to do that, we should get it done and get it done soon before re-eval takes place, because then we're even in better shape. So I just stress with this committee and maybe bringing it to the select board that alternative fundings, this would be one. It's nothing is all roses, and so a TIF isn't all roses. Understand the money that you're sheltering there, right? It doesn't go in the general fund. Right? It doesn't go in the general fund. So what you're doing is you're setting aside those tax dollars, but you don't have those tax dollars available to maybe, let's say, pay for a portion of the RSU or something like that. So there's consequences with it. It was developed more for urban renewal in cities. It was targeted for blighted places that needed dollars for redevelopment. But it also stimulates development because contractors, someone who's going to build in a TIF zone, all of a sudden has additional allies dollar-wise because there's monies made available to them through that. So I just ask you to consider that. Think of a tax incremental financing as one of the alternative ways to be looking at how you could develop a CIP and have it funded. Thanks.
Peter, you're thinking that the East Raymond Village is a good spot for the TIF?
Personally, I'd leave that to the real financial gurus. But I tell you, with everything that's coming down the pipe in this area, it would seem to me that it would be a reasonable place to go for development. And so we're going to be needing dollars, and the TIF could provide for some of those dollars. Obviously, it's not going to provide for all of it, and it takes a while to build that fund up. But like I said, the added advantage is it's reducing our overall county tax, and it's preserving the sharing that we get from the state. So those are the advantages of it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I know that there's a sunset date on the TIF.
Yes.
Do you know what the date is?
I've heard it kicked around, but it's never been verified that we're within a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know? Are we?
No.
No. Yeah. The state will grant them up to 30 years. I'm not sure what we entered into, but I believe it was somewhere around 2000 or maybe in the 90s.
I know it's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be done soon. And nothing prevents you from having, 5 TIF areas if you want.
Oh, you can have more than one?
Oh, yeah, you can have more than one. Understand, though, that, towns will go, well, this sounds great. We're going to put the whole town in TIF. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So obviously, it's got to be done reasonably and with financial brains greater than mine to work it out. What I do know, in talking with a couple of people in Augusta, is that it's not a short process. It is a bit of work to apply for it. But like I said before, when the state's going to say, and what do you want this for? Well, we want to concentrate on our growth areas. That's they're going to light up with that. Oh yes, that's exactly what we want.
I believe you have to have some kind of, you can't just say, I want to concentrate in this area. You've got to have some kind of a commitment from somebody to in fact do that. It's not just automatic. That's why the pipeline was what it was, existing.
Sure.
An existing area. So you can't just blow out and say, we want to do East Raymond and make it a TIF area unless you've got something to support.
Right, exactly.
We're talking about like a plan or like
a plan. Somebody says, I'm going to come in and put 150 housing in this general area.
Sure.
Now you've got a plan because it's really to build infrastructure.
It is.
TIF is really there to build infrastructure.
It is.
To support.
But CIP and TIF both can be used to buy fire trucks.
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. So I'm just saying it's pretty flexible, and I believe there's enough in the next couple of years that are going to happen right here to more than pique the state's interest in it. As far as the 150 houses go, Cliff, absolutely. But I believe
that as an example.
you just walk into Maine State Housing Authority and tell them you want to do that, and they'll say, "Where do we sign?"
How much money do you want?
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, I had a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
You said that we need to move the TIF area, like from 302 to over here, if that's what we want to do, before the revaluation.
Well, because what happens is that if we don't designate the TIF area until after the reval, then those incentives, let's say for the next year or two, as far as making those dollars invisible to the state and to the county, don't happen. So that's, like I say, I'm not saying that's a gimmick to sell on tax incremental financing. It's kind of an added bonus that offsets the fact that the people that are residing in the rest of the town may pay more taxes because the taxes in the TIF area are taken out of the general fund. They're invisible to everybody.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's something to consider. Like I say, in a town this size, I believe what the consultants, North Star, was saying when we discussed TIFs was, yeah, but TIFs are more for development areas and infrastructure improvements associated with attracting an industry or something like that into the town. And, Raymond's just not big enough to do that.
If you wanted to add public water,
Yes.
sewerage.
Yes.
That would, any place you want, there's a reason to put that area into a TIF.
Absolutely.
That's real clear.
Absolutely.
Clear cut.
Improvements to roads, trails, sidewalks.
Yeah. Not down the Cape, though.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's not.
Budget Finance Committee comment. Anyone have any comments?
I have one. One, whoever did the park for Memorial Day needs to be complimented. It really looked exceptionally nice, and like I say, I don't know who did it, but with a tribute to the British flyers and everything else, it looked really nice.
It's a coordination between Don McClellan and I am sorry,
Sharon.
I am drawing a complete
Sharon Dobson.
Sharon Dodson, but
And
there's
what-
another gentleman involved in it, and they take great pride in that.
Looks wonderful.
I apologize, I can't remember his name. It'll come to me as soon as I walk out of the building.
If you haven't been to Tassletalk, you should go down there and see the new building. I was there for the ribbon cutting, and it's really amazing. It really
Yeah.
is great, so kudos to you and to Nathan White for the Public Works Department of
Thank you.
putting that together. It really is,
So
it's awesome.
5-year process. Glad it's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to give us some sustainability for a long time and be used for not just the beach, but hopefully some community events and some other things we can program down there. So it's exciting for the community. So
Outstanding job.
thank you, Karen. Thanks for going.
Okay, anything else?
I have something.
Okay, Don?
I would like to congratulate our new town manager on his appointment and wish him the best of success in his new position, and I'm sure we're all pleased to be working with him and looking forward to the future. And so congratulations, Joe.
Well, thank you, Don.
Congratulations.
Thank you for bringing me here all those years ago.
Yeah, well, you're welcome for that. You've done a great job as rec director, and so I guess we're moving on, and we'll see where the town goes in the future, but I think it's an exciting opportunity for you and for the town, and so off we go.
I appreciate those words, Don. Thank you.
We're looking forward to working with you, Joe.
Thank you. You guys too. I'm really excited for us working together and see what we can accomplish.
Great. All right.
I'll just throw a reminder out there. There's an informational meeting on the annual town warrants Saturday, May 31st, which is this Saturday, at 10 a.m. at the Jordan Small Middle School.
Thank you for that, Sean. All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming tonight.